ほら、ルフィ、今一緒に海賊になる仲間を探してるんだ。
Hello guys, welcome to my channel The Wandering Zoro, your go-to destination for anime-related content. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest videos. In today's video, we're going to be diving into the final part of the series, so be sure to stick around until the end, and let's get started. Narrator POV, Osaka, Japan, 5:38 p.m., November 29th. The city was bustling with traffic as people were either heading home from school or work, while others began to get ready for the nightlife. It was quiet in the small city, where we look into the middle of the downtown area. A figure slowly walked to the center of the city. It seemed to be a man, evident by the build, but it was hard to tell due to the cloak they were wearing. The figure stopped in the middle of the street, causing traffic to stop in some parts as he stood in the way. A pair of hands left the cloak, revealing line tattoos as the man's fingers connected to form a sign. His middle and ring fingers connected while straightened, while his pinkies and pointer fingers knuckles connected under, and the thumb touched as well. A cruel smile crossed the figure's face as his cursed energy began to spike as he uttered two words. Domain expansion. Outside of Osaka, Japan, 5:58 p.m., November 29th. A van pulled up outside a large black border that seemed to separate it from Osaka. A veil had been put over the city, leaving the outside confused about what was happening. This is why the Japanese branch of the Jujutsu Society was sent to handle the situation. Special Grade Izuku Midoriya, Special Grade Maki Zenin, Special Grade Ochiko Uraraka, Special Grade Denki Kaminari, Special Grade Kyoka Jiro, Grade 1 Momo Yorozu, Grade 1 Yui Kodai, Grade 1 Mai Hatsume, Special Grade 1 Tamaki Amakiji, and Grade 1. Morata Fua was sent to handle the situation. They stood outside the veil with Izuku inspecting the veil, seeing that he could enter just fine, showing they weren't trying to stop anyone from entering. Izuku motioned everyone to stay close as they entered the veil. The seriousness of the situation was made evident immediately, the moment the group stepped in, as nothing was in front of them but a wasteland. The mood immediately dipped seeing the empty field, causing one to voice their main concern. Momo, what happened here? Terrified. Ochiko, it's just gone. Was this Kenjaku? Izuku, no, this was Sukuna's doing. I sense several sorcerers and curses here. They are all in different parts of the city that aren't decimated. They want us to separate. Well, let's fall into their traps. I believe all of you will do amazing. I will send you each approximately 500 yards away from the target. Fewer stay here, and any injured will be brought back to you. Mai will guard you with her automatons, and Mai sends them out into the city to look for survivors. Now let's go save Osaka. Izuku snapped his finger, causing all of them to disappear, leaving Mai and Fua, who both quickly started their portion of their job. Both are setting up a station for the survivors. Izuku, 6 p.m. Izuku appeared at a university, most likely the main one in the city. He had appeared in the main hall of the entryway, already seeing dozens of corpses lining the floor. Izuku stepped over them as he began to walk towards the pulsing cursed energy in one of the departments. As he continued to walk through the halls, finding more bodies upon bodies, he felt several more spirits in the same area, all easily disaster level. Izuku began to crack his neck as he opened a door to an auditorium, finding his targets. 12 curses sat around a table, some of them munching on humans, others just sitting there waiting. All of them were special grade, and from the look of one of them, they all were disaster curses. Izuku couldn't help but feel his heart start to beat a little faster, not from fear but excitement. The one sitting at the center felt Izuku and looked up, revealing his volcano head. Izuku recognized him from the book on curses. Jojo, the volcano disaster curse. Izuku quickly began to scan the rest of the curses, trying to figure out what they were. An obvious character trait for each one that would be useful. He saw the volcano Jogo, one with 2 horns nature, an octopus Dagon, one made of cracked rock landslide, one extremely frail and skin of famine, one made of icy materia blizzard, another rock one but more sander drought, one humanoid made of cracks all over its body earthquake, a humanoid that was pure darkness like a living shadow darkness, one that looked like a drowned butterfloods, another with lightning crackling off its charred body every few seconds thunderstorm, and lastly one of just wind tornado. Izuku concluded that it was easily winnable, but decided he'd have some fun in this fight. As he went to enter the room, Jogo appeared in front of him in a blink and released a burst of pure power that destroyed the whole entryway in an explosion. Jogo scoffed as he wiped his hand, thinking he had killed the stupid sorcerer, until a loud mocking clap echoed throughout the auditorium, making Jogo turn back towards the table. Izuku could be seen smirking at the head of the table, surrounded by the curses who looked flabbergasted. Izuku was completely unscathed as he just stared at Jogo with a smirk. Izuku, my, don't blow a fuse too early, Gramps. We haven't even started fighting yet. Jogo, HMPH. You're awfully confident for a sorcerer that just come upon their death. Izuku. Death? What from you guys? Trust me, disaster curses are Sunday noon for me. No, my death will be only from the strongest. And from the records, you are not going to be the death of me. Jogo. Oh, are you saying that you compare to Raiman Sukuna and Satoru Gojo? Izuku chuckled as he slowly took his glasses off, revealing his green eyes as he gave a serious glare to Jogo. Izuku, want to find out? Jogo laughed at that, along with the rest of the curses, making Izuku's smile dangerous. Jogo, that's hilarious. You are nothing compared to those two. Your death will be nice and slow once we're done here. Izuku, you want some knee pads as well? Jogo growled as he tried to shoot another fireball at Izuku. But in a snap, he was across the room again, sitting in one of the auditorium seats. He whistled as the curses began to get on guard as he slowly pulled a single journal from his backpack. Izuku, I guess I have to prove why I'm the strongest in this new world, to y'all. Which pisses me off, so your death will be painful. However, I'm still in experimental mode, so I'm going to draw this out. Jogo couldn't help but feel a little unnerved by the sorcerer. It wasn't a suppressing aura like Sukuna or the overwhelming strength of Gojo. No, this feeling was more primal, like he was looking at something that shouldn't exist, and this unnerving feeling grew as green cursed energy began to leak off of Izuku. Izuku, my cursed technique is considered an international secret, and it has remained such since any person or curse that hears it has died. My cursed technique is called Cursed Collection. Any curse technique I write down in a journal with this symbol on it, I can use as if it were my own. The more detailed I am in my recording of the cursed technique, the stronger the cursed technique is that I use. There are some limitations, like if it's an inherited technique, only the original can exist. Both can't exist at the same time, or in some cases, they can, but both will be significantly weaker. And lastly, I have exactly 10 minutes with the technique before it burns out, where the writing in the journal will disappear, and I can't use that technique until I rewrite the entry, or if I stop using it before the 2 minutes, it will go on cooldown. Jogo, a very broken, cursed technique. No wonder you're considered the strongest in this world. Yet, if you're revealing your technique this early, you must not be confident in even standing a chance against us. Izuku, did you forget, dumbass? I said I was in an experimental mode and needed the boost to try this one out. Now let's see if it works. Journal 52 activate. The journal in Izuku's hand began to glow. Izuku. Entry 15. Heavenly restriction. Activate. Ochiko. 6 p.m. Ochiko appeared in the middle of the street in a portion of the city that the domain expansion didn't destroy. The road was desolate, as everything seemed abandoned, with cars empty and bags littering the ground. Ochiko walked through the streets anyway, trying to find the target her master sent her to fight. That's when she has sirens coming from the sky, making her look and see a fire truck coming towards her. Ochiko dodged back, barely avoiding the truck from crushing her, and looked to the sky, seeing who threw it. She locked eyes with a pair of blue eyes as she saw the girl she had fought in the forest standing on the roof of a building, looking down with a psychotic smile. Hello, Ochiko-chan. It's time we finish what we started. Ochiko couldn't agree more. Whoever you are, Ah, yes, I never told you my name. My name is Yu, the current Six Eyes and Limitless user. Now let's push our limits even further. Ochako didn't respond as she fell into a gunhead stance, pink cursed energy coating her hands. Yu's crazed smile grew as she responded by coating her own hands in their cyan color. Yu immediately jumped down and crashed to the ground down the street from Ochako, and immediately made a finger gun at Ochako and fired a red. Ochako responded by picking up a rock, imbuing it with curse technique reversal, and tossing it into the red, causing it to collapse in on itself into nothingness. You couldn't help but cackle manically as she ran straight to Ochako, pulling her fist back. You, yes, it wasn't a one-off thing. You truly did grow from our battle, just like I did. Come on, Ochako-chan, let's push to even greater heights. Make me stronger to impress, Ms. Nana. Yui, 6 p.m. Yui appeared inside a mall near the food court with her immediately resizing a soul katana to her side, its blade sickly pale green. She looked around on high alert. Due to her restriction, she couldn't sense cursed energy or cursed spirits, meaning she could only rely on her senses. She had her gift from Master Maki, which was a pair of contacts that allowed her to see curses and cursed techniques, but detecting them beforehand was still all on her. She scanned her surroundings, seeing the bodies all around the court, none seeming to have gotten the chance to run away. She also noticed that all of them were drained of vital fluid, leaving them as barely husks of people. Before she could investigate further, she started to smell a potent blood in the air, making her go on guard when she heard a familiar hissing. She immediately began to run as a beam of red vital fluid barely missed the back of her head. The beam tracked after her, tearing through the walls and tables with clean precision. Yui, growing tired of this, grabbed a table and tossed it in the direction of the beam, but enlarged the table until it was the size of a car, forcing the attacker to stop, causing them to punch the table into dozens of pieces. The attacker emerged from the shadows of the upper floor of the mall. Toga stood there in her same outfit from the attack and the same stoic expression. She rubbed her hands as they got coated in stains before she jumped down to the same floor as Yui, causing the ground to crack. Toga, you ready to finish this? Monkey? No help this time to save you. Yui growled uncharacteristically as she prepared her katana for a fight. She had always been some background character everyone always glossed over, an extra in a room of extras. Even in this new world, they tried to gloss over her. No, she wouldn't let that happen. She would be acknowledged as one of the strong. She will win this. Yui disappeared in a burst of speed as she went to slice Toga's neck off. At the same moment, she created a red supernova behind her. The red supernova exploded, consuming the blade and forcing it to stop inches from her neck. Toga then wrapped her vital fluid around Yui, holding her in the sky with blood arms that connected with Toga's waist. Toga then pointed a finger gun at Yui's face. Yui broke the arms and leaned back as an arrow escaped Toga's finger, but it was too late as the arrow grazed Yui's eye, taking it. Yui screamed in pain, but the scream was cut short as another supernova exploded in Yui's chest, knocking her away and through several walls before she slumped against the counter. Toga scoffed as she formed wings behind her, ready to fly after the girl. Toga, really? That's it? Gosh, why did they think a monkey could do against me? Toga, though, didn't see as Yui's hand began to twitch before clenching her fist hard, her blooded chest rising and falling even harder before she forced herself up with pure force. Toga froze as an intense pressure came from the hole she had launched Yui through. Yui appeared at the hole, a mess, her lone eye shadowed as it glared at Toga's soul, making her shiver. Her chest was busted open to the point her ribs were visible, and vital fluid was constantly leaking from the opening. Yui, let me show you what this monkey can do. Momo, 6 p.m. Momo appeared in the underfloor of a train station in front of hundreds of civilians who jumped when she popped into existence in front of them. She calmed them down with her smile as she quickly began efforts to help them. She created a signal tracker that would allow Mize automatons to detect her and arrive to begin evacuating. As she was comforting a child, a care started to materialize in front of them. She didn't waste a second as she created a handgun from her quark and then poured her cursed technique into the chamber, shooting several cursed energy-infused bullets, killing the curse. She huffed as she holstered the gun and patted the kid's head. That's when the whole subway began to shake heavily, making several pieces rattle. Momo couldn't help but wonder what was going on the surface, as the shaking continued to make the subway tremble. Maki, 6 p.m. Maki appeared on top of a rooftop where she quickly scanned her surroundings, trying to find out why she was sent here. She got her answer immediately as a figure didn't stand too far away, looking over the edge. The figure was wearing a skin-tight suit with a black cape. The figure's hair was tied into a black ponytail, and they turned to Maki, confirming their identity as she saw the stitches across their forehead. Maki, Kenjiku. A woman this time. Kenjiku smiled as she messed with her hair and put a finger on the mole near her mouth. The body had seemed to be in their 30s with a decent muscular build. Kenjiku, you like it? It's a hero's body from a few eras ago. She had battled that supposed Demon King, and well, I need a female body for my plans. So, I took it while it was still fresh. I had planned to create another vessel for Sukuna to bring him into this world, but that Demon King seemed to have already claimed this body's lineage. Luckily, I was able to find someone dumb enough to eat the finger. Maki growled as she pulled her sister out from behind her, making Kenjiku stick a tongue out. Maki, what's your game this time? Kenjiku, before, you wanted to create chaos by spreading cursed energy throughout the world. This world is already rampant with cursed energy. So what this time? Kenjiku, well, to free everyone, obviously. Since that would cause the most chaos possible. Plus, someone convinced me of their plan. And well, I'm just intrigued by what will happen. Before Maki could ask what she was talking about, a boom shook the city, almost causing Maki to lose her footing as 3 different areas of the city exploded with power. Kenjiku, HM. It seems your sorcerers have encountered mine and seem to be making a mess. Why don't we join them? Gyro, 6 p.m. Gyro's feet connected with a wet sound, causing her to gasp at seeing the vital fluid on the ground. She steeled her nerves as she focused. She seemed to be in a museum or an art showcase. She couldn't tell, but she kept her guitar close to her body. There were no bodies, just vital fluid on the floor. Gyro slowly walked over the puddles as she ventured deeper into the museum. She tried to feel around for a cursed spirit, where she felt a small one coming from one of the galleries. She turned the corner, seeing an exhibit of human body parts all jumbled together in what seemed to be a monstrosity of limbs. Yet this is where the cursed energy was coming from. She walked closer to it, almost wanting to throw up at the creation. Her finger was close to the strings, ready for anything, when she heard a hiss in the air, making her jump back and tilt her head as a scythe cut through the monstrosity, barely missing her head. Gyro quickly adjusted herself while on her knees and strummed her strings, causing all of them to turn purple as she prepared for a fight. The monstrosity collapsed from the cut, revealing a humanoid figure that was standing behind the pillar of flesh. The figure was male with a cheeky grin and gray eyes with light blue hair. His face had stitches across his face and a dark black cloak. The look on the man's face seemed to hold pure annoyance and anger in his eyes. Gyro thought it was a human, but everything in her core told her it was a cursed spirit, confusing her greatly. But she remained on guard as the man's arm reformed back into a hand. The curse just stayed down at the girl as if looking beyond just her body. Mojito. I am Mojito, the cursed spirit that represents humans. I am the dark reflection of what a human is. Now, I'm going to kill you. I want to see how much I can distort your soul. Can I truly prevent you from going on to the afterlife? The man's voice was broken, almost depressed, but Gyro felt no sympathy as she began to play a song. At the same moment, Mojito spat out a figurine from his mouth. Then the museum began to shake, causing them to spring into action. Mojito swung his arm, making it turn into a scythe again, which Gyro countered with a strum of a guitar, causing the strings to go red as a wave of red smashed into Mojito. Gyro, rock style, mashing red. Mojito was launched back, getting crushed into a wall, as Gyro continued to play, changing her rhythm, causing the strings to turn green. Mojito found the attack interesting but knew it did no true damage to him, causing him to smile as he rushed forward again, this time throwing the hidden figurine at her. It formed into a transformed human that tried to crush her. Gyro didn't waste a second as she strummed a more folky melody, causing a green whip to wrap around both the transformed human and Mojito. Gyro, country style, roping them in, plus. Mojito looked at Gyro as the strings turned a mix between blue and green as she strummed down hard, causing blue electricity to go through the rope, electrocuting the two. Gyro, techno style, electrifying the crowd. She kept it up until the transfigured human exploded, and Mojito just slimmed himself down and escaped the rope. However, he wasn't given room to breathe as Gyro launched a yellow beam from the end of her guitar the moment he escaped, launching him through a wall, forcing Gyro to follow him. They seemed to be in a mirror exhibit that reflected both of them into hundreds of mirrors, forcing both of them to rely on their cursed energy to sense the other. Mojito, you know it's pointless, right? As long as you can't attack the soul, you will never beat me. Hit me with all the sounds you can muster. All it does is make my ears itch. Trust me, there's only one thing that can harm me, and right now it's trapped. And as long as it's trapped, I'm unkillable. Gyro grimaced as she began playing a new tune, while Mojito just gave a cocky grin as he created ears all over his body to prove a point. Gyro took several breaths as she tried to think of what to do. Then a music lesson came to her mind. A memory from her childhood when her parents had been showing her all sorts of music and genres. A smile crossed her face as she began to play a different tune, more smooth as golden waves began to emit from her chest. Mojito began to feel weird as the music filled the room. Gyro stared at him with her own cocky smile. Gyro, you didn't know curse. Music comes from the soul. Gyro strummed down. Denki, 6 p.m. Denki appeared in Osaka Castle, and he stood in the central room of the main building, which made him confused. Though his confusion disappeared immediately as he felt 3 signatures of cursed energy around him. He went on guard as the shoji doors around him on 3 of his sides revealed 3 people who walked in, all wearing traditional yukatas, 2 females and 1 male. The man had a brown yukata with stones on it, 1 female had a white one with a breeze on it, and the last one had a blue one with waves on it. Blue, hello, brother. It's nice to finally meet you. I am Mizu. We are here to convince you to join us, or you will face death. Denki, last time I remember, I didn't have a sister. Who are you? Mizu, isn't it obvious? We're your elemental brothers and sisters. What? You thought you were the only sorcerer who had elemental-based powers. We are all connected together through the very existence of nature and Jujutsu, the merge between the two. You have met our wayward brother and kindly put him down. Now come with us, brother, so we can truly rule this world as nature intended. Denki concluded they were crazy. He began to power up, causing blue lightning to crackle off him. Mizu's smile dropped. Denki didn't pull out Susanoo, instead leaving it sheathed as he wanted to test the waters with this one. Denki, sorry, but I only have one master, and I hate to say it. You don't compare to him. Don't worry, though. I'll be sending you all to your brother real soon. Mizu, I see. I pray your next incarnation, Inazuma, is much more agreeable. Chikyu, Kuki, it seems we must help our brother begin his next incarnation cycle. The two nodded as particles of earth began to surround the man, and wind began to swirl around another woman. Water escaped from behind her, a flask hidden on her back, and water began to surround her as well. Denki then figured out why they kept referring to him as brother. They also wielded elemental-based cursed techniques, which means the first sorcerer he ever killed was who they were talking about. Denki, interesting. Mizu responded first by whipping her hands at Denki, creating a water whip. However, lightning is faster, as a bolt struck the top of the castle, causing a massive explosion. Narrator POV. November 29th, 6:20 p.m. 20 m since the Japan Jujutsu sorcerers entered the Veil, 15 seconds since Izuku Midoriya's domain was cast. Special Grade Denki Kaminari vs. Special Grade Mizu, Special Grade Chikyu, and Special Grade Kuki. Osaka Castle. Denki. The lightning bolt collided with the upper part of the castle, causing it to start collapsing as Denki flexed his body. His electricity getting violent as pieces of the roof began to fall. However, the three sorcerers didn't seem all that impressed or threatened by the display of power. Instead, they just stood there as their respective elements on their yukatas began to surround them. Mizu is surrounded by water, Chikyu by earth, and Kuki by a faint wind. Denki decided to act first, rushing in a burst of speed towards Kuki, his fist inches from connecting, as she didn't react at all, until his hand got shredded down to the bone, the moment it reached a distance of 5 inches. Denki looked shocked, but didn't get time to react as the other male punched towards Denki, causing the earth to deform and make a fist that landed straight in Denki's gut and launched him through the wall and out of the castle. Denki redirected himself in the air with a lightning bolt and landed in the inner courtyard as the castle collapsed on itself, but the three sorcerers already stood in the courtyard as well, unharmed. Denki stayed at them as he regrew his hand and flexed it, causing lightning to crackle around him. Denki, a barrier? I see. It's a vortex constantly around her, and anything that comes close to hitting her gets torn to shreds. The man can control life, and, guessing from her name and clothes, the latter can control water. I can do this, envision victory. Denki fell into a fighting stance, which the three sorcerers copied, making him smile as he gained a cocky look. Mizu, however, acted first in the second bout as she extended a hand out, causing the castle wall to shatter as a water hand grabbed Denki and held him in place. Using the water from the moat surrounding the castle, Denki tried to escape from the hold, but he felt his cursed energy begin to plummet, and his electricity was dying out. The trio began to walk towards him, already believing their victory. Mizu, I'm sorry, brother. However, I am a natural counter to all our siblings. Maybe in the next life you will be on our side once again. Unless you change your mind now. Denki struggled as he tried to escape, giving his answer, making Mizu sigh as she motioned to Chikyu to end it. The man nodded and stepped forward, putting his hands on the earth and then lifting them, causing a spear to appear from the ground. Chikyu's cursed technique is cursed earth manipulation. He can manipulate the earth into anything he wishes, with the only limitations being that it can only be something still found on the earth. If the material has been used by humans, it cannot be used. Depending on how many body parts he puts to the earth increases the potency of the manipulation. Denki refused to die like this, to be defeated so easily. He was a special grade. He shouldn't die like this. He couldn't die like this. He still needed to surpass Ochiko. He needed to prove his worth. So, Denki created a binding vow on the fly. Denki sacrificed his arm, causing it to shrivel up and die. In exchange, no longer would water affect his cursed energy or technique. The impact was immediate as Denki roared, causing the water hand to disperse, shocking the three cursed users. Denki landed on the ground again, grabbing his shriveled left arm and tearing it off. He tried to pour reverse cursed technique into the wound, but nothing happened besides the wound closing. That's when he truly learned the consequences and dangers of a binding vow. But he ignored that as he needed a fight to win. Mizu got out of her shock first, clapping her hands together and shooting a stream of blue water. Mizu, piercing water. The beam went straight for Denki's head, where he ducked under and began running as the stream tracked after him, tearing through the wall behind like it was butter. Chikyu woke up from his shock and threw the spear at Denki, who responded by pulling out Susanoo and deflecting the spear with ease. Denki quickly scanned his surroundings and realized he lost track of the wind sorcerer, Kuki. He looked up, seeing her floating in the sky. She swiped her hand, causing a gust of wind that launched Denki away back into the city, where he crashed into the side of a building, going through the window and slid against the floor. He groaned as he sat up and healed his broken bones. Denki stared at his missing arm and sighed as he thought of a new plan. He focused all his power into his arm, muttering chants under his breath as an electric arm began to form, until finally it was complete, allowing Denki to flex and move his temporary electric arm. Denki, the arm of Susanoo, the god of thunder. Denki looked up as he put his cursed tool in his electric hand. The three cursed users now stood in the hole he was put through. However, Denki noticed something about them. They seemed to be standing slightly in front of the man, and the man looked uncomfortable, like he was out of his element. It was subtle, but Denki still noticed. Denki stabbed his cursed tool into the center of the building, causing the excess electricity it stored from him to release, causing the whole building to shake and give way as the lightning began to tear the building apart. Denki saw that the two went to help the man even though there was plenty of rock around, which confirmed his theory. Denki was gone in a flash, going straight into the chest of Chikyu, taking them out of the building, his sword into the chest of the cursed user as the building collapsed behind them, keeping the other two occupied. Denki began pouring cursed energy into the blade, causing electricity to spark as the two fell to the earth. Denki noticed that small pieces of earth began to cover the blade from inside Chikyu's yukata. Denki, so I was right, you can only manipulate the natural earth. What a weakling. Begone. Chikyu tried to struggle by punching Denki in the face, which felt like getting hit with a rugged weapon. Denki just smiled as he put his human hand into Chikyu's face and began to push his cursed energy even further, causing the two to become falling stars as they fell to the ground until they finally crashed, causing an outburst of electric power. Mizu and Kuki landed not far and held serious expressions, as the dust cleared, showing Denki walking out holding a smoking skull that he tossed to the two. Mizu grew angry while Kuki held a sorrowful look. Denki, now who is any? Denki's words got caught in his throat as the whole city began to shake from an explosion of power that even caused Mizu and Kuki to gulp from it. The trio turned to a whole different section of the city as a wave of destruction made its way towards them. The debris carried buildings, cars, glass, and anything else it could find. The trio quickly scaled the building until they all stood on separate ones. Yet they still all had their focus on that area, as the cursed energy continued to grow from it. To one of them, that energy was all too familiar. Denki, Ochiko, did you finally reach that level? 6:25 p.m., 5 minutes since the start of the battle between Special Grade Ochiko Uraraka and Special Grade U. 5 minutes and 15 seconds since Izuku Midoriya cast his domain. Lower District of Osaka. Ochiko. A building imploded from the inside as a blue ball tore through it, chasing a figure that swerved between the debris, until they tossed a piece of debris at the blue, where it was sucked in and immediately collapsed on itself, disappearing into nothing. Ochiko didn't get to react in time as you teleported in front of her and punched her in the face, causing sparks of black to appear from the connection, as Ochiko got launched straight into the street, causing a boom of debris from the crack in the street. Ochiko recovered, repairing her broken jaw, as it didn't allow any breathing room as she appeared in front of Ochiko, landing another hook across Ochiko's jaw, causing another burst of black sparks. You held a manic look as she pulled her fist back once more and punched Ochiko in the chest, causing another outburst of black sparks. Ochiko skidded across the ground, keeping her footing as she held her chest and healed once again, staring down you with annoyance. You continued to giggle as she flexed her hand. Come on, Ochiko-chan. You can't give up already. We've barely started. Ochiko spat out vital fluid as she fell back into a stance. She knew the girl was good at martial arts. However, this was absurd, how far she was adapting to Ochiko's fighting technique. And it didn't help that Yu's infinity seemed to have grown since she last fought her, though there was no time for excuses at the moment. Ochiko slammed her fist into the ground, maximizing the gravity output the moment her fist made contact, causing the whole ground to implode and expose the source system. Yu laughed as she tried to regain her footing, until she began to get pulled towards Ochiko, confusing her, until she noticed a single rock floating as it was covered in a pink aura, and seemed to pulse. Ochiko, gravitational pull. The pulse got stronger as Yu was fully dragged towards Ochiko, where she pulled her fist back and punched into Yu's chest, but was stopped short due to infinity, making Yu grow a cocky grin until her body slowly began to pull towards the fist slowly going through the infinity. Yu growled as she went to punch Ochiko in the face, which she ducked under and threw another punch, this time aiming for Yu's face. Once again stopped by infinity until the very air around her face began to vibrate, until Ochiko's fist connected with her cheek, causing an outburst of black sparks and AX-5 appearing over Ochiko's head, causing Yu's head to recoil back as she was launched into the side of a building, causing the entire side to collapse on itself. Ochiko released a heavy breath as she felt the rush consume her. She clenched her fingers and slowly opened and closed her hand. She felt that amazing feeling again, like her body was on fire yet like she could burn forever and never burn out. Her cursed energy was still high, meaning she could keep going. She felt like she was right on the edge of becoming something more, something on an entirely different level. Someone who could stand by the strongest and not stand out. Someone who would never let someone die in their arms. Someone who could save one single girl who needed help. Ochiko clenched her fist hard, causing her aura of cursed energy to flay. Across the street, the building Yu was put into imploded as a spike of cursed energy filled the street. The debris cleared, now showing her having a serious look, as she put both hands together in a pose. "Yu, let's end this now, Ochiko-san." Ochiko didn't respond but felt the same as she picked up a decent piece of debris and began pouring cursed energy into the rock, causing it to glow pink. Then the two stayed each other down as one end of the street held a pink hue and the other cyan color. "Yu, curse technique, maximum output, lapse blue." A blue orb appeared next to Yu. Yet, Ochiko remained focused on Yu as she waited for the right moment. "Yu, cursed technique reversal, red." A red orb appeared on the opposite side of Yu, and both began to merge as you finished the ritual. "Yu, imaginary technique, hollow purple." After the combination of colors emerged, creating a massive purple that crackled with power before launching towards Ochiko, making her look at the hollow purple with wonder, before staring down at the piece of rubble in her hand as she continued to pour cursed energy into it. She knew she should be afraid of the death ball. Yet, she felt no fear. Instead, she felt light in her heart and mind, like a new person. Toga crossed her mind once more, causing her to grow a saddened look before refocusing. Once again, she reached her conclusion about herself. She was no longer that weak hero who couldn't save a single girl's smile. Now she was a sorcerer, someone that no one could stop. Someone who could have saved that girl. Ochiko took a deep breath as she tossed the rubble towards the purple, causing it to begin to pulse as it floated across the street. Yu smirked at the weak attempt, assuming Ochiko had given up. That was far from the truth. 95%. Ochiko, cursed technique, maximum output, collapsing star. Ochiko closed her fist, causing the center of the rubble to begin to swell on itself until a small black dot appeared in the middle of the street that slowly made its way to the rampaging purple, with small debris slowly getting sucked towards the dot before being consumed into nothingness. Ochiko, black hole. The two catastrophic attacks collided in the middle of the street, with the black hole expanding the moment it made contact with the traveling neutron star. The two attacks' collision caused the Earth to start caving in and getting dragged into the growing distortion of space, causing a distorted orb of dark purple energy began to emerge before it collapsed on itself. A loud hissing filled the air, and a single small unstable white ball floated in the epicenter of the collision. It shook violently before exploding outwards, causing a screen of white to consume the area, followed by a large boom of power. As it consumed the whole area, a white dome of power consumed everything before imploding on itself and then expanding out again, sending a shockwave, forming a wave of destruction of upturned buildings and rubble getting pushed away. The epicenter of the attack from above looked as if everything around it just began to get pushed away by an invisible force, easily taking another quarter of the city, matching the previous wasteland from the King of Curses. In the epicenter of the explosion lay an empty crater of glass with little debris. A piece of a car got tossed to the side, revealing Ochiko, who used the car to steady yourself as she was very injured. Her uniform was torn in several places, but still kept her somewhat modest in clothing. However, her body was in an extreme state of injury. Her right arm lay missing with a stump, several parts of her body had holes that went to the other side, and her face had severe burns across it. All the wounds slowly healed with her exhausted RCT. Yet Ochiko held no worry in her stance as she stared across the wasteland, seeing a piece of rubble get moved, revealing a similarly injured Yu. her leg missing, along with one of her eyes. Yet, she held a smile on her face. Even though her infinity was destroyed by the attack, even though she lay on the edge of defeat, she couldn't help but smile. Thank you for this wonderful experience, Ochako-san. You showed me what it's like to be pushed to the brink and to go beyond even that. Let's finish this with a grand finale, right, Ochako-san? You regrew her missing leg and her other portions of her body as she lifted her left hand and crossed two fingers, her cursed energy soaring once more, making Ochako sigh as she felt her own cursed energy at about half her reserves, yet she willed her body to heal fully. Her resolve grew once more as she felt herself become fulfilled once more. There were no more worries, no more pain. Just her and a smile. An absolute victory. Ochako reached 100% potential for her Jujutsu. Ochako's quirk was now absorbed fully by the cursed technique. Ochako brought her fingertips together as if activating her now-dead quirk. Her cursed energy soared, matching her opponent as she got wrapped in pink cursed energy. She remembered what her master told her. Visualize it. The better the image and layout, the higher the chance for victory. You and Ochako, domain expansion. 6:20 p.m. 15 seconds until special grade Izuku Midoriya will cast his domain on 12 disaster-level curses. Osaka University. Izuku. The curses waited for something to happen after he activated the ability, but nothing but silence filled the room, making it awkward as the curses seemed to sweat drop. Izuku. Well, so much for that. I guess it's back to the old way of doing this. Jogo. This human is dumb. Dagon make his death painful. Dagon nodded as he stepped forward and brought his hands together in a dome-like position, spreading his domain out, bringing them all into a beach-like landscape. Izuku whistled, impressed as he looked around, inspecting the domain while the curses began to relax. Izuku, impressive, but you're going to need more than that to defeat me. Izuku's hands fell into his domain sign as he poured cursed energy throughout his body. Izuku, domain expansion, library of Autolycus. Immediately, Dagon's domain was overwritten as the surroundings instead turned into a library with a dark hue to it, instead of the once golden layout that had appeared before. The curses stood stunned, seeing that Dagon's domain was overpowered so easily. Izuku smiled as he took a deep breath, feeling his domain activate. Izuku, that's much better. Like I said, you're going to need to prove yourself to me. Now, can we begin? However, they weren't paying attention to Izuku as they all stared at their bodies and hands. Feeling the boost from Izuku's domain, they all seemed to have gotten high. Jogo, this feels incredible. My cursed energy is almost double. Izuku, why, yes. This is the condition of my domain. I grant anyone in it a boost in cursed energy while I get something in exchange. Earthquake. Well, thanks for the boost, you dumb. Before the disaster could even finish his words, Izuku was in front of him in a burst of electricity, touching the chest of the curse, then causing it to burst into red flames as it disintegrated into dust. Carat 11 curses left, Earthquake Disaster Curse exorcised in 005 after the Singularities domain was casted. The disaster curses stood stunned as they watched one of their own being killed in seconds. Izuku turned to curses and smiled, a dark presence behind it as his cursed energy began to leak out. Izuku, now, let's not get too brave or stupid. This is still my domain, meaning you are in my world, and in this world. I am God. So start praying for forgiveness. Jogo growled as he brought his fingers together to cast his own domain. Jogo, domain expansion. However, nothing happened, confusing Jogo and the other curses. This just made Izuku laugh as he wagged his finger at them. His cocky smile grew as he began to stretch his neck. Izuku, as I said, this is my world. In the condition where you get the boost from my domain. In exchange, you receive double cursed energy output and unlimited cursed energy. I as well receive two things. One is that no one can cast a domain after they have already been caught by my own. And second, while my domain is activated, I can use any cursed technique that I have recorded with no issue of burnout. The only condition is that after exactly 7 minutes, my domain will break. Izuku pointed to the grand clock hanging over the mall, which was beginning to click down. Izuku finished stretching as he fell into a fighting stance. Izuku. So, why don't we get down to it? Now, please try to live the whole time. It's boring when they die early. 6:25 p.m. 5 minutes since Special Grade Yui Kodai had begun her battle with Cursed Womb Toga. 30 seconds since Special Grade Yui Kodai became fully realized. 5 minutes and 24 seconds since Special Grade Izuku Midoriya's domain had finished its sequence. Yui. Toga reacted first, immediately clapping her hands together and sending another piercing blood towards the still Yui. Every instinct in Toga screamed at her to kill the sorcerer and responded in kind. Yet, her attack never hit as Yui stood to her side and punched her square in the jaw, knocking her through a wall before coming to a screeching halt. As she used her wings to stop herself. The moment she stopped, she got wrapped in chains, where Yui appeared again, drop-kicking her through another wall. But instead of getting launched back, Yui grabbed the chain and began whirling Toga around before tossing her back into the mall. Toga, how the hell is she still moving? There's a hole in her chest, she's bleeding everywhere, and my vital fluid is in her system. She should be dead already. How is she moving? Toga got punched in the face once again, along with her arm being cleaved off by Dragon Bone, and then kicked away. That's when she noticed what was going on with Yui. Toga forced her vital fluid out to harness and reconnect with her flying arm, and then forcing it back to herself to reattach with it. She didn't have RCT, but it worked well enough considering her corpse-like body. Toga stared at the once more still form of Yui as it finally clicked what was happening. Yui was unconscious. Her body was moving on pure instinct for survival. It was looking for the closest threat and would eliminate it or die trying. Now this was a battle of attrition, on whose body and will would give out first. Toga got into a ready stance, causing Yui's body to turn in her direction. Toga was given life once more, even though she was ready for her next life. She was fine with dying again, but she now had something to protect, even though she needed to protect the weird vials. Deep in her heart, she just needed to, and one last thing was to thank Ochako-chan. To thank her for believing in her. Until then, she couldn't die. Yui rushed forward again, aiming straight for Toga's head with Dragon Bone. Toga had pushed vital fluid into her eyes, giving her better vision, and barely able to dodge the strike, tried to unleash another supernova, but was avoided with ease. As Yui slid away and threw several chairs and tables at Toga, which all tripled in size, forcing Toga to dodge and weave under them as she launched another supernova, which exploded but missed the sorcerer. Toga quickly created a shield around herself the moment Yui tried to stab Dragon Bone through her chest, with it barely blocking it. As the two struggled in the middle of the destroyed mall, the earth began to shake until the mall began to fall apart. Then it completely collapsed, burying the two. The TWP caught in the crosshair of the catastrophic threat of two special grades fighting. To them, their fight was everything on the line, and to prove to themselves. To the special grades, it was nothing but a casualty in their way. Special Grade Yui Kodai will be retrieved by the Coalition after the end of the Osaka disaster. Toga went into hiding after the incident, escaping Kenjaku's clutches. 6:21 p.m. 1 minute and 15 seconds since Special Grade Izuku Midoriya casted his domain. 5 minutes since the battle between Special Grade Kyokujiro and Special Grade Curse Mahito began. Mahito coughed up as the sound wave of music hit him, immediately putting him on the defensive as he felt his soul come under attack. Gyro smiled cockily as she realized that she hit the target she was aiming for. Now this curse was killable, and nothing would stop that now. Mahito wiped his mouth as he got serious. He needed to focus and act maturely again. Immaturity and cockiness got him killed last time. Sure, it was nature as in human curse to fall to those tendencies. However, humans could also be cruel and calculated. Mahito, it seems I underestimated you, human. For that, I won't do that again. Now it's time to treat you like a true threat to my being. I'm going to do exactly what I'm going to do to that brat. Once he's free. Gyro didn't know what the curse was talking about, but felt the shift in energy from it, either making her go on guard, ready for any movement from it. Mahito was contemplating whether he should end it in one move, risking exposing his trump card too early, which could be countered, or face the risk of defeat by slowly whittling the sorcerer down with his technique. Mahito decided to end it now. He didn't need to drag this out. If Kenjiku's plan was successful, he would get the fight he's been waiting for, and he didn't need to take any extra damage from some nobody. Mahito opened his mouth, revealing two sets of small hands both in a pose. Gyro immediately recognized the flow of cursed energy and signs, bringing her guitar close to her chest as she formed two fists together. Gyro, Shadow-style simple domain. Mahito, domain expansion self-embodiment of perfection. The two got wrapped in the domain, showing several hands wrapping and forming all around the two. Mahito casually walked forward towards the immobile Gyro as her hand stayed close to herself, and the hand from the domain just stopped right before her. Mahito, I will admit, human. If you had maybe a couple more years under your belt, I wouldn't have stood a chance. I can tell you are a special grade, yet an inexperienced one at that. You must die. As you have shown, you are another counter to me. You have no way to defend yourself besides that simple domain. And once it breaks, my sure hit effect takes effect. You're done. There's nothing you can do. I have already won. Gyro stayed up in fear as Mahito stared down at her like a predator stalking its prey and getting ready to feast. He slowly moved his hand towards her face. Mahito, goodbye, sorcerer. The body of special grade Gyro was never found. Special grade curse Mahito was seen later in the streets after the conversion. 6:20 p.m., 30 seconds since special grade Izuku Midoriya has cast his domain. Izuku flexed his hands as the purple vital fluid disintegrated away. The disaster curses slowly tried to surround the curse, wary of him. They all felt an innate fear of this sorcerer, like a being that existed only to kill them had appeared. An apex predator. The Darkness curse growled as it slapped its hands together and expanded out, creating several black spears around it. Darkness, blighted spears. It launched the spears towards Izuku, who just stood there with a smile, until he clapped, making it echo throughout the library. Then he was gone, and in his place was the drought curse, where the spears tore through the curse like it was a pincushion. Izuku appeared next to Darkness, putting his hand on its shoulder as they both stared at the now disintegrating drought curse. 10 curses left, at 040 drought disaster curse exorcised. Izuku, and that's another 2 down, leaving 9 left. So think you can make it the whole 7 minutes? 9 curses left, at 041 darkness disaster curse exorcised. As Izuku said that, the darkness curse burst into electric sparks before disappearing completely as well. Izuku turned to the remaining one, a smile still on his face, who seemed to just scream in the mind of danger. Dagon reacted first, launching a fish at high speeds towards Izuku, though he held back slightly in case Izuku switched with someone. However, Izuku instead dodged under it and rushed towards Dagon, skipping out of existence like a laggy frame, before appearing in an aggressive stance, punching straight into Dagon's abdomen, causing a crack of power that launched Dagon through several bookcases. Jogo tried to intervene, but Izuku disappeared into 24 frames again until he hit a side hammer into Jogo's face, knocking him through several bookcases before crashing into a pillar. Dagon, it feels like I got punched by a mountain. Jogo, this feeling. His punch was like 1,000 shards of glass, tearing me apart. Can he also use the cursed energy property of different techniques? Izuku, don't think too hard about it. Volcano head. You have to focus. After all, it's only been 1 minute. Narrator POV. November 29th, 6:21 p.m. 1 minute 10 seconds since special grade Izuku Midoriya cast his domain. 1 minute and 10 seconds since Izuku's domain began its sequence. 9 disaster curses are remaining. Izuku rushed forward again, this time heading for the landslide curse. However, before he could reach the curse, a wall of ice blocked the path, making him turn to the avalanche curse. He then began to backpedal as a motion blur of 24 frames, avoiding several icicles and lightning bolts. He then focused on the still down Dagon and made his decision to finish it off. He wrapped himself in Denki's electrical cursed energy and rushed towards Dagon, who was still trying to force himself back up. The other curses tried to stop Izuku, but he weaved between all the attacks and punched through another ice wall, then stabbed straight through Dagon's chest, showing his hand on the other side covered in purple stains as it leaked to the ground. The curses stood stunned as Izuku unleashed an electric burst, destroying Dagon. 8 curses left. See Disaster Curse exorcised by Special Grade Izuku Midoriya. The tornado curse roared as it punched forward, creating a whirlwind straight towards Izuku. Izuku clapped, replacing himself with a book that was next to the thunderstorm curse, catching him off guard. It tried to create a lightning bolt to kill the sorcerer, but Izuku just spoke 2 words. Izuku, kill yourself. The thunderstorm curse immediately froze from the words and brought its hand to its neck and began to force electricity throughout its body, causing its body to begin breaking down before finally collapsing into ashes. Izuku wiped dust off himself as he stared down the rest of the curses, making some take a step back by instinct. 7 curses left. Thunderstorm Disaster Curse exorcised by Special Grade Izuku Midoriya. Izuku. And that makes 7 left. And we barely reached the halfway point. The grand clock chimed above, signaling that 3 minutes and 30 seconds had now passed. Izuku began scanning the curses, seeing which one was expendable now. Jogo watched from the sidelines, finding this all odd. Izuku could have killed any of them with a clap from Tornado's attack, but instead, he didn't. He also could have ordered Thunderstorm to kill any of them, but instead ordered them to kill themselves. Jogo, his picking and choosing who to kill. Why? There must be another condition to this domain. Something else he gets out of it besides satisfaction. He has made it clear he is in complete control of the fight. So why is he trying to keep us alive? Why? Izuku scanned around them and saw who needed attention. Then he focused on the famine curse and snapped his fingers with a smile on his face. A volcano appeared next to Famine from the side of the bookcase, engulfing the curse in seconds in lava, killing it. Izuku whistled as he studied the volcano and created another one next to him, as if studying it. 6 curses left. Famine Disaster Curse exorcised by Special Grade Izuku Midoriya. Jogo held a stunned look as he watched his own technique get used against an ally. That had to be it, the final piece of the domain. It couldn't be. That's impossible. He explained his technique. This wasn't a part of it. He didn't write it down. Jogo, he can take the techniques from his opponents that are in the domain. It must be. That's why he kept us alive. He wanted the techniques that he didn't have already or something similar. What's going to happen if it reaches the end of the 7 minutes? Izuku began to scan them again as if seeing who was the next expendable one. Then he paused as he took a glance in a different direction, as if feeling something, making him smile almost proudly. Izuku. Don't you love it when the people you cultivate prove that you didn't waste your time? It seems she finally reached that final section, and she will finally be complete. I guess I should help her a little by making her opponent weaker. The Avalanche Curse tried to take advantage of the distracted Izuku by launching a barrage of icicles. Though all of the icicles stopped short, making Izuku smile as he stared down Jogo as the cursed spirit started to have flashbacks of a certain white-haired sorcerer. Izuku disappeared and reappeared in front of the landslide curse and put a hand on its chest. He tapped the chest playfully as he walked away, showing he could have ended it if he wanted to. Jogo created several volcanoes around Izuku, causing them all to blow up and consume Izuku. Izuku appeared again across the library, this time next to Flood's curse, and made a blue on his back, causing it be consumed before he disappeared again, punching the Avalanche Curse in the stomach, grabbing it before it got far, and then tossing it through several bookcases. 5 curses left. Flood's Disaster Curse exorcised by Special Grade Izuku Midoriya. Izuku. I think that's enough out of me. She can handle the rest. Let's try some of these new techniques out. Now, who do I not need anymore? You. Izuku clapped his hands, replacing himself with another book, this time in front of the landslide, once again touching the chest of the curse, giving a tap of his finger as if thinking what to do. Then it seemed he had an idea. Izuku. Sorry, but Earth-related cursed techniques aren't really that interesting or useful. The landslide curse began to turn an icy blue as Izuku poured ice into the curse before it started to fall apart into icy chunks, now leaving the ones that Izuku wanted. The ones he'll let live for the next 30 seconds. 4 curses left. Landslide disaster curse exorcised by special grade Izuku Midoriya. Izuku. So, before my domain finishes, would you like any last words to be said or any questions you want to ask? Jogo. How? How can your domain be so much? This shouldn't be allowed in this world. It breaks all equivalent exchange rules. Izuku. That's a fair question. Well, originally, my domain only allowed me to use the cursed techniques I collected, but I thought that was weak. So, with the power of binding vows, I made some changes to my domain. The first binding vow was to give my opponents infinite cursed energy, which allowed me to start absorbing their cursed technique. The second binding vow I made gives the opponent double cursed energy output, allowing me to keep them in my domain with no fear of a counter-domain. I have a slightly weaker exterior. The third binding vow is what gives me your cursed technique and cursed property in exchange my domain, which will end at exactly 7 minutes, which is now. Izuku's domain dropped as the grand clock chimed one final time. Izuku sighed and gave a smile to the curses. It was over. The grand library began to disappear, putting them back into the auditorium classroom from before. Izuku put his glasses back on, as the curses took a step back in fear. Izuku, enough of this Q&A, goodbye disaster curses. Jogo tried to create his maximum output, but it was too late as he fell into minced pieces and burst into purple flames along with his brothers and sisters. Officially marking the end of the disaster curses, Izuku stayed down at the remains of the curses with a disappointed look. Even disaster curses weren't enough to satisfy him, nor did most of them have any interesting techniques. He needed this plan to work. He needed something to make him feel like he mattered. How can he call himself the strongest in a world of glass? He felt for the others and found that most of them were complete, all except one, and he could tell who it was based on the fact that he could only feel cursed energy from one figure that was flaring as if fighting something. He decided to step in as he snapped his fingers. 6:27 p.m. Special grade Izuku Midoriya eliminates all disaster curses. 3 minutes until convergence. 6:26 p.m. Ochiko. The space around the two distorted as the two's domains clashed in a field of empty white void. Both are trying to form their domain to overpower the other. Neither had created one before, but both knew whoever created the more thorough one first would win. Ochiko's nose began to bleed from pushing herself along, with one of Yu's eyes beginning to bleed. Yet, they both continued to push, laying out the details and designs along with the rules, trying to overpower the other. Then it happened. Yu felt her cursed technique and energy drop, as if it was stolen from her. This allowed Ochiko to win the clash as the area got consumed in a black void. The two stood in the black void. Then planets and stars began to form, all alien in nature as if they emerged from some far-off galaxy, evident by the large purple ringed planet, a white sun, and a large black hole consuming it all slowly. Ochiko, the universal pool of the void. You stood there defeated but still held a thankful smile. She knew this battle was over. Her infinity was destroyed, and her RCT was burnt out. This battle was over and had a victor. Yet, she didn't care. She fought someone so strong and gave her all in the end. Ochiko was in a similar state of exhaustion, but still felt a smile come across her face from the victory. She could feel the sure hit effect and knew immediately what she could do. Ochiko, thank you. I would have never reached this level without you. Rest in peace. Ochiko targeted the center of Yu's brain, causing the center point to collapse in on itself as her brain was destroyed, causing her instant death, leaving no room for any reverse cursed technique. Immediately after Ochiko's domain dropped, putting them back in the wasteland. Yu's body fell backward with a thump. Ochiko let out a tired breath before falling forward to the floor unconscious. Ochiko could have destroyed Yu whole and just ended there, but she respected the girl she had battled, enough to allow her body to be still whole so she could be buried by her allies. A sentimental move that would not pay back. 6:27 p.m. Special Grade Ochika Uraraka defeats the Six Eyes user in battle. 6:26 p.m. Denki. Denki stared at the destruction from the aftermath of Ochiko's clash with the Six Eyes user. He could also feel the domain clash from here. His electric clenched its fist, showing the brewing jealousy. Once again, she saw it in Jujutsu even though she took it only half as seriously as him. He wanted the strength. That's why he pushed himself, to never be a burden again. She pushed for money and yet was always ahead of him. 95%. He had been stuck there for so long. He pushed himself to the brink, and yet 95% was the only peak he could reach. He needed more. Denki's electricity soared again as he wrapped himself in a veil of electricity charging from his rooftop straight for Mizu. Mizu responded by pulling water out of a water tank next to her and sent 4 slashes of water at Denki while he was in the air, while keeping one last one around herself like a hula hoop. Denki weaved around 2 of the water slashes before slicing through the final one with his Susanoo blade. The other 2 slashes carved into the building like butter, breaking it apart. Before Denki could launch himself at Mizu to find her, Kuki created a mini tornado in the center of the street, picking up all the debris from the street, creating a chaparral tornado that tore through the city and Denki's skin. Denki forced his electric field to grow, blocking the debris as he bounced between the large pieces of debris as he traveled to the top of the tornado. Denki pointed Susanoo's tip at the tornado, causing a massive bolt of lightning to strike down into the center of the tornado, causing an explosion that forced it to disperse, launching debris in all directions. While Denki floated in the air for that split second, Mizu launched a water fist into Denki, who barely blocked as he got punched across several blocks. He quickly recovered and began bouncing between each rooftop as several gashes of air tore apart buildings, mincing them into pieces like butter. Denki looked behind him, seeing the 2 chasing after him. Wait, no. Kuki was chasing after Denki in a flight mode, but Mizu was running straight for the moat to get enough water to end this. Denki immediately went for Kuki now that Mizu was distracted. Kuki, not expecting Denki to rush her this fast, created a barrier of wind around her. It wasn't faster than lightning as Denki connected with her, launching her into the side of the building. She laid in the side of it embedded into the concrete, vital fluid pouring from several wounds all over her body. She tried to get up until Susanoo pierced her chest, making her look up, seeing Denki floating in the sky before landing on top of another rooftop. Denki decided to try something as he clapped his hands Togati pointing them at Kuki. Mizu stopped in her tracks and tried to shout out to stop Denki, but it was too late. Denki, Thunderbolt. Denki's technique doesn't allow him to have much use unless he wants his body to break down after a one-time use. So, Denki made a gamble after watching all 3 of them use techniques like attacks while having similar cursed energy properties to him, so they must have similar techniques as well. So, if they could manipulate their cursed property like they were different techniques, then he could as well. It was a gamble that paid off as the electricity collected in his hands and launched a bolt of blue lightning with a large boom. It was traveling straight for Kuki as it got attracted by Susanoo. The bolt connected, causing a massive explosion that caused the whole side of the building to collapse before falling, with electric currents running rampant from the epicenter of the attack. Mizu growled as she used the water from the moat to slowly surround her while Denki turned to her, reaching his electric hand out, causing Susanoo to return to his hand. Special Grade Kuki defeated by Special Grade Denki Kaminari. Mizu, you insignificant little brat. I offer you a seat with my family, and you slaughter them. I will fill your lungs with water and make every living moment a walking hell until you are dead. You will. Denki began to tune her out as he closed his eyes, feeling the electric current off his body. He then recalled when he had punched Kuki the first time, how she had used her cursed property as a natural defense. He felt the electricity around him and made it hum until it began light up around him. He opened his eyes and stared at the light fence like electricity around him. He looked to his side, seeing a small cup from a restaurant, and reached for it. The moment it connected with the fence, it disintegrated from the heat. Not a second later, Denki jumped off the roof, heading straight for Mizu, who had charged the water around her. Denki skidded along the side of the building, leaving a trail of burnt concrete as Mizu began launching water spears at Denki, piercing the building as if it were Swiss cheese. But Denki continued his descent until he crashed to the street level, then went into another burst of speed straight for Mizu. Mizu began to panic as she began launching dozens of water slashes in Denki's direction, cleaving more debris and buildings apart as Denki avoided the slashes. Some were so ineradicable that he didn't need to dodge. Mizu began to hyperventilate as Denki grew closer by the second due to his intense speed. That's when she decided she wasn't going to risk it anymore. If she was going to die, he was coming with her. Mizu. Technique release. Mythical Beast Pearl. Denki stopped in his tracks as Mizu's cursed energy soared along with a bubble of water around her, forming before it spasmed out, launching several streams of water that began tearing through everything, forcing Denki to make his shield stronger as it barely held against the onslaught of water. Then it stopped, showing Mizu emerging from the bubble, water surrounding her like armor, and at the same time a part of her body in a deep dark blue coloring. She launched herself towards Denki using water as a boost from her feet, crossing the remaining distance between the two of them in seconds. Denki put his guard up along with the fence as she enlarged her fist with her water, punching him away. As Denki flew back with minimal injury due to his fence, he began to calculate what to do to win. Mizu is still on his trail with another boost of water. Denki, so this is what my technique is like. I see what Master means by a one-time use technique at that. Her cursed energy drained rapidly after she punched me, since fence burnt it to nothing. Yet, it came back in seconds, but instead of reverse cursed technique, it came back as a water hand. It seems currently I just need to survive until she literally burns out of cursed energy. I refuse to activate my technique for someone this pathetic. Mizu pulled her head back before shouting at Denki, causing a ring-like appendage to form over her face. A ring of pure power came from Mizu's mouth, consuming Mizu as Denki got launched further down the street. Denki tried to formulate a plan to kill this sorcerer, as it seemed waiting out her technique wasn't a good idea. He dodged another wave of water tendrils that slashed through more of the street. He scanned his surroundings, trying to find something from the environment, and felt it. He turned in the direction of another part of the city. He copied another move from Mizu, pushing an electric discharge to his feet and boosting himself forward at even faster speeds than before. Mizu growled as she sent more waves of water whips at Denki. He barely avoided them with his new speed, not stopping as he continued to run towards his direction. Mizu boosted herself even more with water appearing next to Denki, turning her hand into claws. She swiped at Denki, and he was forced to stop and pull Susanoo up, barely getting enough time to enforce it with fence as the claws came down. The connection was loud as steel connected with hardened water, creating a grinding sound as her claws connected with his fence, barely stopping the claws from hitting him. The building behind him wasn't as lucky as a claw mark appeared on it, stopping right where he was. Denki forced Mizu off of him, creating a discharge that tore a portion of her torso off, but regrew immediately into that hard water substance. Yet that second was all Denki needed as he continued his sprint, Mizu chasing after him again, until they came to stop outside of a power station, confusing Mizu as she looked around herself. Denki deactivated his fence and stared Mizu down like a challenge as he prepped Susanoo with electricity, pointing its tip at her while going into a stance. Mizu felt her skin tearing itself apart, making her tense in pain. Yet she needed to kill this monster in front of her. She couldn't die until this brat was a stain on the pavement. As Mizu prepared to charge towards Denki, instead Denki acted first, pushing a discharge in his feet, propelling himself straight into Mizu, pushing through several walls before pinning her against a generator. The reason he had led her here in the first place. Mizu grabbed the blade, trying to pull it out, but her hand began to disintegrate as more electricity began to surround the two. Denki, you were a natural counter to me before my binding vow. However, you are still a counter to my electricity. Though that's only to a certain degree before a limit is reached, and if water takes too much electricity, it explodes. Mizu's eyes widened as Denki began to make his cursed energy soar, consuming the two in electricity as he began to siphon from the generators around the area, pouring it into both of them. causing arcs of lightning to escape from the two as it carved into the ground. Mizu growled in anger as she was about to scream in his face with pure power, until Denki grabbed her by the face with his electric hand, pouring more of his cursed property onto her, forcing his cursed energy to reach new limits. Her skin began to peel away from the heat and reform as that hardened blue water stuff, which began to bubble from the pressure. He continued to pour more cursed energy. He felt his pool of cursed energy drop rapidly, but he continued to increase his output. She tried to push him back, but he remained still standing as he tried to keep her there as the generates around them began to spark and turn orange as they overheated. Denki screamed in a burst of power as he poured his last cursed energy into Mizu, causing her to scream as her body exploded, causing a massive burst of steam that consumed the area, forcing the generators to also explode in a wave of electric energy, putting the whole remaining intact part of the city in darkness. Special Grade Mizu defeated by Special Grade Denki. Denki emerged from the explosion with severe burns but was still alive as he panted, waiting for his cursed energy to come back so he could heal himself. He slowly walked away from the carnage, walking towards a different area of carnage. His electric arm was gone now, forcing him to drag Susanoo across the ground with a tired drag. Eventually, he arrived in an empty clearing with nothing in a large circle with only TW bodies in the center of it. One of you and the other of the unconscious Ochiko. He eventually stopped in front of her, staring down at her still form. A thought crossed his mind as he glanced at his blade. It would be so easy right now to become Master's favorite, to prove he was superior. He didn't know why his hand was shaking so badly. He wanted this, right? To prove his worth. The blade stilled as he got his composure. He then pointed the blade at you instead, releasing a bolt that was stored, catching the body on fire. Denki, you're still too soft, Ochiko. We have an enemy that can steal bodies. We can't leave a body like hers available. And when we fight, I want it to be fair, so when I win, it means something. Denki knelt and picked up Ochiko, putting her over his shoulder as he began to walk towards the base the others had set up for any survivors. 2 minutes until convergence. 6:27 p.m. Battle between the curse and sorcerer from another world. 3 minutes until convergence. Maki. A dragon tore through a building, releasing a breath of purple fire at something inside the building. A small figure went through the fire and slammed itself in the chest of the dragon, tearing open a hole through it, killing it. Maki glared at the floating Kenjiku as the curse's vital fluid disintegrated off her. Kenjiku couldn't help but sweat slightly from the glare as it created another portal, pushing several more dragons flying at Maki as Kenjiku began to float backwards. Maki took a deep breath as she landed on the disintegrating body of the dragon, using it as a launch pad, bouncing between the buildings like a pinball while slicing through the dragons. Kenjiku. I forgot how annoying a heavenly restriction is. She's already killed 1,000 curses and yet doesn't even look tired. It's not even a percentage of my reserves, yet she's forcing me to use my stronger ones. Maki cleaved the last dragon in half, using it as a launch pad to get to Kenjiku, getting her inches from them before creating an anti-gravity wall, pushing her back into the side of a school. Maki growled as she popped her neck and picked up her sister once more. She noticed hundreds of cursed spirits appearing on the ground, rushing towards her as she jumped down into the courtyard. She flexed her body, and in seconds, all of them were gone in pieces as she reappeared at the end of the courtyard. Maki stared back at the flying Kenjiku, making it smile as it made another black portal the size of a saucer in the sky. Then a giant cursed spirit emerged from the portal, dropping down, causing a huge crater to form as it roared, trying to punch down at Maki. Maki just grinned as she jumped over the fist and ran up the arm, taking another leap which shattered the curse's arm from the force and cleaved its head in two. Maki landed on the street in front of the school while Kenjiku slowly landed, giving a clap, causing the veil to fall apart around the city, confusing Maki as she stayed in a ready stance. Kenjiku couldn't help but laugh as her body bounced from it, making Maki cringe. Kenjiku, you asked me what my plan was, correct? This battle is long over now. All the disaster curses are dead. My sorcerers are dead. and the singularity will be here in seconds. I've lost, so I might as well tell you my plan. Maki listened as Kenjaku continued. Kenjaku, originally, I planned to kill you all and wait a couple thousand years to free the ones trapped in the prism, to start a new culling games. However, someone came up to me and gave me a better idea, which was this disaster in Osaka. To show this new world truly how powerful Jujutsu is. To show this world what we are capable of, to sow chaos. And with the next step of this plan, truly, this world will know what chaos is. Maki growled as she pulled out a ring about to call an old rival for help once more. The glowing ring of love as Kenjaku pulled out the prism, making Maki panic as she didn't know what he was doing. Before she could move closer, though, something appeared at her side, causing her to raise her guard as she got punched into the side of a car. Maki growled as she glanced up, seeing Izuku with a smile as he walked over to Kenjaku, who handed him the prism, as she bowed and backed away. Maki knew this was going to happen at some point, just not at this time of all times. Izuku, I'm sorry, Maki-sensei. We both knew this was going to happen for a long time. Our views of Jujutsu are far too different. I assume you already figured out this little disaster was my idea. This world is pathetic compared to the old, sensei. I've said that so many times to you, and you always told me the opposite. You called this the perfect world compared to ours, a fresh start for Jujutsu. However, there is already a power in this world that is far inferior to cursed energy. Izuku turned to Maki as he began to pour cursed energy into the prism with a smile. Maki could only look at her surrogate son with disappointment and fear. Izuku, however, you were right about having a fresh start in this world, creating a new branch of Jujutsu while fixing the mistakes of the old. It was nice traveling the world with you, bringing Jujutsu to every corner. I'm sorry, but it was never enough for me. All it did was prove to me that my heart was right. That these quirks and cursed energy cannot exist in a world together. This unbearable loneliness in a world where sorcerers are rare, in an extraordinary world. I'm changing that. Quirks will be shown after today as the inferior power, allowing cursed energy to soar in this world. And to start that cycle of convergence, I will free the sorcerers trapped in the prism, fully completing the transition. However, you were wrong about one thing. Maki could only watch as the prism began to glow violently as a journal exited from Izuku's backpack and began to float around him as circles formed on the ground. Izuku, the prism didn't only absorb the current sorcerers from your time, Maki-sensei. It also absorbed the memories and data of every Jujutsu sorcerer to have ever lived in the old world. Izuku gave a sinister look as the prism began to crack, leaking a deep rainbow energy that began to break free from the prism. Izuku, now, what do you think would happen, sensei, if all those sorcerers came to this world at the same time? Maki's eyes widened at the threat Izuku was applying, forcing herself to stand up fully. Maki, Izuku, this is madness. Thousands could die. All for what? Chaos. Izuku, strength. Strength will determine this world's future. Cursed energy will reign supreme, and this world will produce the sorcerers that could satisfy me. A world where sorcerers can truly prosper and reach a new age. Not a golden era like the Heinen era, but something more. A divine era. Plus, I was aiming for the billions. Izuku finished pushing more cursed energy as he activated a new technique, causing the floating journal to glow. Izuku, idle transfiguration. Then there was nothing but light. Convergence had arrived. Narrator POV. The prism. Gojo remembered trading blows with Sukuna in the middle of Shinjuku. Then it was nothing but a bright light. In the next second, he stood in this void. A rainbow-like colored sky with pieces of rock-like quartz floating everywhere like mini platforms. Gojo had thought he had died for a second against Sukuna, but tossed that thought aside as he still felt his cursed energy. Gojo refocused as he turned around, seeing his students and allies, all of them huddled together in a similar state of confusion. However, he focused on one who was unconscious on the floor, rushing forward to their side. Gojo, Megumi? The others turned and looked as well, seeing Megumi lying on the floor in the same clothes Sukuna was wearing. But now he was asleep laying there, not stirring in the slightest. The others quickly surrounded Gojo, while others stared off into the weird void. Yuji looked at the now standing Nobara, shocking him, to the point tears began to well in his eyes. Yuji, Kujisaki? Nobara turned to Yuji and smiled at him. She hated to admit it, but she missed the old goof. Yuji rushed her, bringing her into a hug that she gladly returned. Gojo inspected Megumi but couldn't feel Sukuna in him anymore. He was just knocked out, most likely from the excess evil. That led Gojo to release a deep breath as he brought his focus to the surroundings around them. Shoko, any ideas what this is, Satoru? Shoko asked him as she walked to his side for protection. Gojo continued to scan around the weird void, trying to find the key area of it. Gojo, 1. It's very similar to the prison realm. The only difference being we aren't getting constantly attacked by the trapped souls. However, there are souls in this void. They line the whole void, thousands of them, maybe even more. As he concluded, one more thing was brought up by Yuta. Yuta, my ring is gone. And Moki isn't here? Gojo could confirm that Moki wasn't here, along with any cursed weapon that they had. It's like they all just materialized here with only their clothes. Gojo did notice the 3 sorcerers from the past were still with them, with Sukuna's attendant looking despondent as they went to the corner. Gojo, everyone, rest while I keep watch. If anything seems off, yell it out. Yuji, Sensei, you should rest. If anything, you were just fighting Sukuna. Gojo couldn't help but laugh at that. A sad laugh, but a laugh all the same. Gojo, what type of teacher would I be if I slept on the job? Don't worry, Yuji. I'll be fine. Now rest. Yuji eventually conceded as he took a seat next to Megumi, with Nobara next to him. Thus, Gojo began his long watch. 18 hours later, Gojo yawned slightly as he had grown bored with the background that filled the sky. The constant floating of souls was annoying, but all were too scared to do anything to them. Purely because he was here, he glanced behind him, seeing that all of his people were fine. Gojo, Utaheim. How long have we been here? Utaheim. From what I can tell, it's been roughly 18 hours. Are you sure you're not tired? Gojo, don't worry, Utaheim. I'm fine, really. I'm just trying to figure out what happened. How did we get sealed away? Utaheim. Who knows, but it feels weird in here. It's like I can't get hungry, but I'm slowly getting tired from just existing. Gojo hummed as he flared his cursed energy again, causing several souls to go away. He sighed as he put a hand on Utaheim's knee for comfort. Showing that she was sitting next to him near the ledge, Utaheim calmed down, getting scared by the pulse. It was quiet for a moment before Utaheim put her hands on top of Gojo's hands that were on her knee. It was silent for a long second as the two stared into the void. That's when it started. The void began to shake. He quickly picked up Utaheim and teleported to the center of the group. As the pieces of crystals began to break apart, then the whole void got caught in a brilliant light. Maki could only look in stunned silence as the prism shattered into pieces in Izuku's hand as the light continued to pour out, launching beams in every direction, along with different color trails as they went all over the world. Maki looked devastated watching the pieces of the prism fall to the ground. Her whole reason for existence these past 18 years, all those lonely nights she cried alone, all these years of hardship. For nothing? To Maki, her whole world came crashing down as she collapsed to her knees, tears beginning to form. Izuku found the sight humorous, so he decided not to tell her the convergence was successful. Izuku turned to Kenjiku, seeing the curse looking nervous, making him chuckle. Izuku, now our vow is complete. So, when would you like to die? Wait, before that, why don't we reunite everyone? How long until Sukuna arrives? Kenjiku, soon. Izuku, good, now let's. Izuku put a hand up, barely blocking a sword swing in time from Maki as Soul Split Katana was inches from neck. Now resting against his hand as he formed ice in his hand, coating it like armor, stopping the blow. Izuku raised an eyebrow as he looked to Maki, like she was crazy. Her face held nothing but pure grief and rage. Tears were streaming down her face as her eyes were pinpoints and shook with pure emotion. Izuku, really? Are you trying to kill me? No trust in your student anymore? Maki, I should have killed you the moment I found out something was wrong in your head. Izuku laughed at that as ice slowing began to slowly cover the katana. Izuku, ouch. Don't you remember, sensei? You already tried that. And remember what I said I would do if you tried again? Maki tried to pull the katana back, but couldn't as Izuku kept his hold on it, and more ice began to cover the blade, until Izuku put force down, causing it to shatter into pieces. Maki didn't get to react as Izuku then kicked her away, indenting her into the side of a car. Izuku. Now, where was I? Ah, yes, time to bring these new people here. Izuku closed his eyes as he focused on the very world, trying to find a specific set of souls. It wasn't hard, as it seemed they came back in the same place they were taken from, Shinjuku. He began to focus as he brought his hands out, as he also looked for his students, not just the ones in Japan but the ones in the world as well. Izuku, Journal 2, Entry 1, Active, Hands Crossed, Groove, Between Friends, Boogie Woogie. Izuku clapped. The effect was immediate as the Jujutsu sorcerers of the old world appeared in front of Izuku, all in a state of bewilderment and trying to get their bearings. All put one as they stared down Izuku, making his soul quiver with excitement as those 6 eyes stared him down. Kenjaku went to Izuku's side for now as his students also appeared behind him. Izuku glanced, seeing Ochiko and Denki in rough shape, making him annoyed, but luckily, his student from overseas could protect them if the fight broke out now. Anyway, sides were going to be picked soon anyway. Maki looked stunned as she watched her family appear out of thin air. Izuku, welcome, sorcerers of the old world, to the new world. I bet you are confused. Care for me to explain? Gojo answered for the group as he continued to stare down Izuku. He just felt off about this thing in front of him. Gojo, I don't want to hear an explanation from some weirdo who works with that body snatcher. Izuku glanced at Kenjaku and chuckled as he waved his hand dismissively. Izuku, trust me, this chaos is just a means to an end. I guess I'll cut to the point. I want to fight you. Just you, Satoru Gojo, along with Sukuna, in a battle that will decide the fate of this world. So what do you say? Gojo stared at the boy in front of him, thinking he was crazy. Gojo, I'm not going to waste my time with you, brat. There are way bigger fish to fry than you. Izuku, I remember Sensei saying you always were down to fight. I guess you're still in your serious mode from your fight with Sukuna. Oh, wait, that was probably hours for you to I guess that makes sense. So, I need to give you a motivation to fight me. Like with Sukuna, maybe a few million people would do. Or even better, a few students. The response was immediate as Gojo teleported to Izuku and threw a punch at him, which Izuku caught with ease. Obviously, stopped short by infinity, but the message was sent. Izuku. So, that got your attention? Don't worry. I won't hurt them, in exchange for something. I vow to never harm your students until I kill you. Gojo looked slightly taken aback by how easily this young man made a binding vow. Izuku just smiled as the two continued to struggle against each other. Gojo, what's your game? Izuku. I already told you. I want to fight you and Sukuna. That's it. Then after that I will purge this world of well, you don't even know anything about this world. Guess she can tell you later. As Gojo was going to respond, his instincts went on high alert as he dodged back, getting in front of his family, blocking an invisible slash by expanding his infinity. Izuku glanced at an alley with a smile while Gojo glared at it. As Sukuna stepped out still in Bakugo's body as the Cursed King walked into the light wearing something similar to his outfit, he fought Gojo. Sukuna, so you finally freed him? Good. Then we can begin this duel, or at least set the date. Euron quickly went to Sukuna's side along with Kenjaku. Gojo, you're actually entertaining this. Sukuna, why not? He made a great impression, and I like his idea. It seems it might be something interesting after all in this new era. So, yes, I agree to this battle. Maybe this time I'll actually get a good fight. Gojo grew a tick mark at that as he found it annoying. Izuku, I see. It's going to take a lot of effort to convince you. How about this? Every day you refuse to fight, I kill a whole city. Does that sound good? Denki froze. hearing that as he glanced at the back of Izuku. He wouldn't do that, right? Denki looked around at these new foreign sorcerers. Some looked like this was normal, some held a smile. He glanced at his classmates, seeing their state of shock. Well, some of them at least. Fewer was too busy pumping RCT into the bleeding-out Yui and unconscious Ochiko. Moki, Gojo. Make the vow. He isn't bluffing. Gojo turned to the unfamiliar woman. He hadn't noticed her before. He felt no cursed energy, making him realize that she was heavenly restricted. However, she seemed familiar. He stared into her yellow eyes and saw a familiar pain in them. His eyes widened as he realized who it was. Gojo, I accept this fight. Now a date. Izuku. First, another vow. We will not be able to harm another sorcerer of the opponent's side until the date of the fight. Unless they attack first, the attacker is open to death. Agreed. And location? Kyoto? Gojo? Yes. Sukuna? Sure. Why not? Izuku? Good. Now a date. It would be fun to get our fight out of the way now. But Gojo is exhausted over there, and Sukuna is barely at 12 fingers. And that's no fun for me. Let's say 3 months from now, on February 14th. Is that Faye? Gojo, a little weird wanting to have it on that day. But I have no complaints. Sukuna, my only complaint is that it's not soon enough, but I'll manage with some cities. I agree. An invisible chain wrapped each of their necks, sealing their duel for the future. Izuku couldn't look any happier before he clapped his hands, making Sukuna and his trope disappear, leaving just Izuku's and Gojo's. The two sides stared at each other as Izuku continued to smile to the point that Gojo was beginning to grow angry at Izuku's face. Izuku. So, now that everything is set, let me inform you of what I will have my students do for me since I cannot do anything until February. First, their mission is to kill Megumi Fushiguro. Yuji and Nobara flinched as they stood more protective of the unconscious Zenin. Izuku just smiled at the camaraderie. Izuku. Wouldn't it be easier to kill him now so Sukuna doesn't get his body again? Well, besides that, second, my students will begin hunting down and destroying every hero agency and institution in the world. The sorcerers from the old world looked confused at that, but Maki narrowed her eyes at that, as she began recording to show the heroes later. Izuku, you'll learn from her later on what I'm talking about. And lastly, I don't know. I guess I'll announce that last one later. So, Gojo, I know none of this will be a problem for you. Do you have that same confidence in your students? Gojo smiled at that as he pointed back to his family behind him. Gojo, trust me, brat. I trust in my students no matter the obstacle. Now, can you trust your students as much as I can? For mine? Izuku just smiled at that as he turned to his students and decided to have his moment for them now. Izuku, I guess is somewhat right. Okay, if anyone does not want to participate in my plans, this is the opportunity to leave. I will admit that this war is going to be bloody. So, leave if you're not comfortable. The foreign sorcerers didn't move as they stayed on Izuku's side. However, for the first time, the UA students felt conflicted. Everything they were taught before was against this movement, to kill innocents and disrupt society. They had just fought this very evil, not even a year ago. Yet, now, for some reason, some of them hesitated. I thought about it and looked to one of her automatons, something that was impossible before. With Izuku, she was able to cross the threshold of life and machine. She sighed as she stayed by his side, along with Tamaki, with his same voided expression. Momo hardly hesitated to begin walking towards Gojo's side, until she stopped as she remembered something, and began to look around as if looking for someone before turning to Izuku. Momo, where's Kyoka? Izuku, I teleported all of my students' cursed energy that I could sense. I could feel Gyro's cursed energy, but something was wrong with it. I was going to investigate later, as I don't think it's the best idea to bring her here if I'm right about what happened. Momo, bring her. I know what she will pick, and it isn't this. Izuku sighed as he focused and clapped his hands, causing something to appear in front of Momo. Momo's face looked confused at the weird-looking lump that had formed in front of her. The old-world sorcerers recognized this immediately, especially Yuji, as he clenched his fists in anger. Momo's face slowly shifted to horror as she noticed the purple hair the lump had, earjacks that seemed to stick out of it. She collapsed to her knees as she cradled the lump. Izuku. It seems she was transfigured by the special grade curse Mahito. Unfortunately, there is nothing to do for her now. She is gone. Now, please give her a proper burial and go to your class. Momo didn't move. Instead, she looked up to Izuku as he stood over her. Momo, I know you can fix her. Please fix her. I'll do anything. Izuku raised an eyebrow. Izuku. Anything? Momo. Yes. Momo whispered in a desperate tone, making a smile cross Izuku's face. Izuku. Then vow that you will only use your cursed technique when I allow it and only if it benefits me. Momo. I swear it. Izuku. Then come with me, and I'll fix her when we return to our base. Momo. Yes, sir. Momo picked up the lump that once was Kyokujiro and walked to Izuku's side. Fua continued to pour RCT into Yui, keeping her stable. However, she was starting to doubt herself as she wanted to leave, but she had a feeling that Izuku would let the girl die if she left. She couldn't let that happen, so she stayed. Denki stood there conflicted as much as the others, but yet out of all of them, he had no heart to leave. He knew this was wrong. He knew he was turning his back on everyone. He felt disgusted but was still not moving. Izuku had made him who he was. He couldn't turn his back on him now. After everything he had done for him, nothing would change from now on. However, when Ochako got up, none of the New World sorcerers went to Gojo's side. Izuku smiled one final time to Gojo and clapped his hands, making them all disappear, leaving the Old World sorcerers in confusion in the decimated city. Maki took a deep breath as she stood up, staring at her destroyed katana, filling her with an intense sadness, before she focused on the old family she once had. They looked at her with wariness, which was understandable, but Gojo looked at her like he recognized her. She sighed, feeling the immense guilt of failure, but she buried it for now. She needed to get to work prepping for Izuku's plan. Maki, come with me. I have a place we can talk, and where I can explain how much time has passed since you were trapped in the prism. The others were about to deny it, obviously not trusting the scary woman, until Gojo spoke for them. Gojo, okay, lead the way. Maki nodded as she turned around and began making calls to the Hero Association, while the others could only feel that she was familiar. Elsewhere, Mount Fuji. They appeared deep in the shell of the mountain, an old hideout of the former League of Villains that Izuku found one day. He decided to keep it a secret and use it when the time came for his plans to take place. He walked towards a large table and sat down, inviting his students to sit, which they all slowly did, with Denki putting the unconscious Ochako next to him and Fua putting Yui on a nearby slab as she finished the healing. Izuku. Now, my students of Japan, I assume you have questions about what this plan is and why I'm doing it, correct? Denki. Yes. What are you doing, master? This is insanity. Izuku. It is. I won't deny that. I'm asking you to help me destroy your world, just like those villains you fought all those years ago. However, unlike them, I have a reason for this. I won't lie. I have my own selfish reasons, but still, I do this for a reason that benefits this world. You all should know how broken this world was due to quirks, a sickness that caused monsters to appear. Denki flinched slightly as he thought of Shigaraki. Izuku. Yet what made me sick was how the weak of this world caused so much suffering to the strong, begging them for safety yet criticizing them if they fail, demanding respect yet cowering if that power is directed at them. It sickens me that quirks caused inequality in the world that didn't allow for it to grow. Cursed energy can do that. It can allow this world to grow. First, though, we need to restart the world. Denki, you're talking about genocide. Izuku, I am. However, we are only going to target the people who have no chance of being a decent sorcerer, and with the opening of the prism, the survival of the fittest will take place in our world, and natural selection will truly take its course on the human race. The strong will no longer worry about the weak, and the weak can no longer rely on the strong. A world meant for growth and evolution. A new age in humanity. Denki looked at Izuku like he was insane, cajoling Izuku to sigh as he seemed to have lost such an interesting piece. Izuku. Well, it happens. As long as he doesn't mess with the plans, he can live. Izuku. I already told you. Denki. You do not have to stay by my side, nor do you have to join the others trying to stop me. However, if you get in my way, any of you, I will handle you like a threat. Weakly, the room fell silent from the threat, making them all unnerved. Well, only the UA students at least. The foreigners seemed used to it. Izuku. Good. Rest. We have a long battle ahead of us, and you will receive your missions. If you're not here in the morning, I'll assume you made your choice. There are plenty of rooms, so there's no need to fight for space. Fewer take Yui to the med bay. Denki find Ochiko a room, and then also go to the med bay for that on. I'll inform them when they wake up. Everyone soon left, leaving Izuku alone in the room, where his smile dropped. He contemplated whether he was doing the correct thing for a second, but buried that thought as he activated another ability. This time, connecting himself with every sorcerer that had been brought out of the prism. Izuku. Hello, sorcerers of the old world. I'm the one who has freed you from that prism. Many of you have been dead for a long time, and some were alive when the prism took you. However, I have given you all a chance in this new world to try again from scratch, to help bring this world to a new era of Jujutsu. Some of you were evil, and some were good. All are now pointless, as I request one thing. Go wild. Maki. The old world sorcerers could be seen driving in several escort trucks. In Maki sat Yuji, Gojo, and Nabara. It was silent in the truck besides Maki making several calls to the other Jujutsu schools confirming what had happened. Yuji and Nabara didn't know who this woman was, but could feel the danger she emitted. It felt similar to Gojo and yet oddly familiar to them as well. Maki, we should be arriving at the HQ soon. Once we're there, I will explain everything that you all missed. Also, it's alright if you get overwhelmed. Yuji. Thank you to What was your name? Maki. That you'll find out soon enough. Soon, the trucks came to a stop in front of a giant building in the middle of Tokyo. Maki's door was opened as she stepped out into a sea of people in black suits as they opened the other trucks. Maki walked forward towards the building, causing the sorcerers to follow as the suited people surrounded them like a shield. Eventually, they were brought to a boardroom where several people were already discussing over a holographic globe, as red blobs continued to form all over it, making the room mutter in worry until they saw the sorcerers enter. Hawks walked over as they split the table in half, allowing the sorcerers to get closer. Hawks, Zenin? What the hell happened out there? The old Jujutsu class froze, hearing that name as Maki walked forward, crossing her arms as she stared at the globe. As more heroes began to walk in, with a majority of the top 10, Maki slipped a USB into the table as she began. Maki, the worst-case scenario is that Izuku Midoriya has betrayed us. It was bound to happen, but what he's done has made this scenario so much worse. Hawks, what did he do? Maki, he broke open the prism, which brought back the sorcerers from my world. However, he has also brought back every sorcerer that has ever lived, both good and evil. And from what this globe shows, it has already started. Hawks, how can they come back if they are dead? Yuta stepped forward, making Maki stare at him for a second before looking at the globe again. Yuta, we had something similar happen with us, in our world. Kenjaku brought back sorcerers from the past by allowing them to return in selected bodies with cursed objects. This Izuku fellow might have done something similar. Hawks, so these souls could have gone to any similar body, which probably explains why I've lost contact with several heroes. What about the students from UA? Maki, all sided with Izuku. Whether out of fear or truly believing him, I couldn't tell. However, it does seem that Izuku was the one who helped free Sukuna with Bakugo's body. Now for the recording for proof. Maki activated the holograph, making the sorcerers look in awe at the tech. Something that was way ahead of their time. As they watched the video, which was just a replay of Izuku's vow and plans. As the video played, some of the sorcerers stared at Maki's back. That handsome man had called her a Zenin, but all the Zenin were dead besides Maki. Yet this woman was at least in her mid-30s, so there was no way she could be Maki. They had only been trapped for 18 hours. Nabara, did you hear that? Yuji? He called her a Zenin. I thought Maki and Megumi were the only ones left. Yuji, that's what Maki-senpai told us. Maybe she missed one. Maki could hear them whispering, but ignored them as she refocused as the video came to an end. Hawks, so, a three-way battle between Midoriya, Sukuna, and Gojo. In Kyoto on Valentine's Day. How romantic. I assume you are Gojo. Hawks asked Gojo, who refocused on the conversation. However, it felt odd meeting someone who didn't know who he was off the bat. Gojo, yes, I am. Hawks, be honest with me. Can you defeat those two? Gojo looked taken aback for a second. This was the first time someone had genuinely doubted him. It felt weird, yet not bad. He couldn't help but smile as he gave his confident grin. Gojo, of course. I can handle Sukuna, but I will admit I don't know anything about that brat you keep bringing up. Maki, I will debrief you once we finish here. Now, let's discuss the 3 goals Izuku made for his rogue sorceress. Kushikabe. 3? He only gave us 2. Maki, he only told us 2. There's a third one we just have to figure out. His first goal is to kill Fushiguro, most likely to prevent Sukuna from getting the 10 shadows or... Maki's thought process ended as she stared at the knocked-out Megumi, thinking of something, as the others began to talk. My, so kill the 10 shadows so that Sukuna doesn't get it. Or well, is there any other option? Yuji, of course. We protect Megumi. We can't just kill him. We can protect him this time. As the others continued to argue about what to do, Maki fumed as she stared at the hand that covered her mouth. A failsafe that she had forgotten about. A vow from him. She couldn't say what his technique was, a condition made all the way back when she thought he was still her student. She may not be able to say it, but she can still warn them. Maki, we cannot let Megumi die, as Izuku will get what he wants, and if he gets taken by Sukuna. Sukuna gets what he wants. Our goal will be to protect Megumi at all costs. However, if a time comes where we have to make a choice, we let Sukuna take Megumi. Megumi must not be allowed to be killed. Yuji, you can't be serious. Just allow Sukuna to take him if things get bad. The rest of the sorcerers didn't know what to make of the plan as they murmured amongst themselves. The whole time, Gojo just stared at Maki as he continued to stare at the recording. Gojo, we go with Maki's plan. She most likely can't tell us directly due to a binding vow. However, I assume the death of Megumi would cause something to happen to Midoriya's cursed technique. I trust you. Maki looked thankful. However, the others heard what Gojo had said. Yuta, wait. Maki? Maki ignored him, continuing to look forward as she didn't want to meet any of their gazes. She felt like she would cry if she did, so she continued in her professional tone. Maki, I said I'll explain everything later. We need to finish this. Now that the first objective is met, we can focus on the second. He wants to destroy the hero institutions. I assume higher security. Hawks, yes. We have notified all our hero agencies to be on high alert and the schools to go on lockdown. It's hard, though, because as you saw on the globe, chaos is already starting to happen. It seems an influx of cursed spirits also started to emerge unnaturally across the world. Maki, most likely from a combination of Kenjaku and Tamaki. They most likely released all of their spirits across the world as both a distraction and a warm-up for the awakened sorcerers. It would also start forcing civilians to choose between their quirk or cursed energy. I'll send more sorcerers to be on the alert. Hawks agreed. However, these foreign special grades. Do you have any information on them? Maki, yes, they're in the drive as well. I'll explain in greater detail about each of them tomorrow. It's been a long day, and I need a bath. So, let's finish this up since I still have to talk to them. Hawks, understood. Which leaves this mysterious third objective. Any ideas? After all, he was your student? The old world raised some eyebrows at that since they never took Maki as someone becoming a teacher, not knowing she didn't have much choice in the matter. Maki, I can only think of one thing, and that is killing Tungen-sama. However, he would receive no benefit from it, besides maybe a sick satisfaction. We can bring her here for safety, just in case, as he knows the location of her current base. Yuji chimed in. Yuji, what about Sukuna's remaining fingers? Maki, I guess we can focus on him since we are uncertain about Izuku. Maki's voice made it seem like she had completely forgotten about Sukuna. Todo called her out. Todo, Zenin, why does it seem like you think this Midoriya fellow is more of a threat than Sukuna? Maki took a second to answer before replying in a soft voice. Maki, because to me, Izuku is the greater threat than Sukuna. However, you are right. Sukuna is still a threat we need to prepare for. We put 3 fingers on each continent to make it harder for Sukuna to re-emerge. I just talked to my contacts, and Sukuna has taken all of Asia's, Oceania's, South America's, and North America's fingers, leaving the other ones still available. Gojo, we will discuss who will guard which ones. Now I think it's time my people had a talk with each other and learn about this world. Also, where we could stay. Hawks, of course, I'll let you talk first and send someone to show you to your rooms. Maki, you can use conference room J. Maki, thank you. Follow me. Maki turned to them as she began to walk away, forcing them to follow her to learn the truth. So, this was the end of this series. Stay tuned for next part of this series, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.